Hello everybody and welcome back to Earth and Star Wars 6. Now before I start this off, if you happen to be someone who stumbled upon this video, this is your first one, probably gonna have two questions, or at the very least, it's been a trend I've seen. First off, Earth doesn't exist in Star Wars, what are you doing? This is a what if. Part 1 explains the setup and I've gone from there. Then as for using Halo, Mass Effect, and now Warhammer, simply put, it's a visual representation of what's happening on screen. I don't have animation skills, I don't have anything such as that, so I'm using them just to represent Earth and what is going on screen. That's it. I'm not combining the two universes. If I use a name, it's because I'm being rather silly. Alright? With that out of the way, let's kick this off. With the Death Star destroyed, Palpatine dead, and all of his clones gone, the Empire's on the run. The Rebel Alliance presses its advantage and begins to reform into something greater. Before this can be done, however, the Alliance turns to their stalwart ally, the Outer Republic, and offers them a place within the New Republic. The Outer Republic is hesitant, but the Alliance is different from the Galactic Republic that preceded them. The two had spent the past few years fighting side by side. They fought for the ideals of democracy. Seeing that they are strongest together, the Outer Republic accepts. They become a founding member of the New Republic. The details will be poured over later, but the two allies are now one republic. Over time, the Empire would slowly be beaten back, and slowly, Imperials would start to turn on one another. One by one, Imperial worlds would fall, and one by one, the New Republic would liberate the worlds of the galaxy. At this point, the Terrans' history is tied into that of the New Republic. They take up the mantle as the shock troops of the New Republic. When they show up, the Empire understands the meaning of fear. Eventually, the Empire would be beaten back to Jakku, and then the final swan song of the Galactic Empire would be sung. With the battle resulting in a New Republic victory, a peace treaty would be signed, the Galactic Concordance. Imperial forces surviving the battle would flee into the unknown regions, while individuals loyal to the old Imperial ways would establish a faction within the New Republic Senate, known as the First Order. With peace finally established throughout the galaxy, the Senate would push through the Military Disarmament Act. This would cause tension and result in the Terrans renegotiating their stance within the New Republic. With the war over, they could finally pour over those details. The Terrans want to downsize their military, but they want to do it on their terms. With this in mind, the Terrans negotiate that they will have a voice on the Senate, and when in the wider galaxy, they will follow their laws. However, they retain their ability to govern themselves, as well as expand when and where they want within the bounds of the unknown regions that isn't already claimed. The other New Republic members find it hard to argue with the civilization that threw in with the rebellion almost from the beginning and lost everything in the process. For the next few decades, Earth would build a civilization on Zakul, and with this, the term Terran no longer refers to the humans on Earth, but any species who assimilates into the Terran culture. Slowly, the Terrans would begin colonizing other worlds and would continue to explore the unknown regions. They would find worlds like Iokath, and their technology would skyrocket once again. The dead worlds that used to be Earth and the other colonies may be worthless to the wider galaxy, but for decades the Terrans would fiercely defend these systems. They intended to one day terraform these worlds, but the technology still eluded them. Until the Vong incursion, that is. However, reverse engineering the odd tech would take time. Those who saw Earth before its destruction will never see its recreation. For those two little statements, the bonus episodes will explain what the hell I mean by that if you haven't seen them. Back in the wider galaxy, the Terrans would rarely use their ships outside of their own space, unless there was a pressing concern. The New Republic could handle the concerns of peacetime, but if they needed a military, they knew the Terrans would be there. However, in the Senate, the old hatred between the First Order and Terrans would turn the hallowed halls of debate into a battleground. The actions done to the Terrans by the Empire are still scorched into the mind of every Terran. This holds true for the First Order. The Terrans, even while they were in the New Republic, were brutal to the Empire, the actions of Biss being the highlight. The two sides viewed the other as a genocidal hypocrite. When the First Order finally left the Senate and regrouped with the military in the unknown regions, the Terrans increased their efforts to hunt down the mortal enemy, actions that angered the Senate. Full-fledged battles would break out, and the First Order would realize that they were woefully unprepared to fight this new enemy. The Terrans focused on civilian technology, mostly in part to rebuild Zakul, but to also avoid angering the New Republic Senate. With that said, the Terrans would create other weapons of war in secret. Despite not having connections to the Force, the Terrans still wanted a counter to the Jedi, or the Sith, if they ever re-emerged. This led to the creation of Space Marines, or something similar. A super soldier that the Terrans could create in limited numbers using their combined knowledge in genetic modification, cybernetics, and bioengineering from Vong Tech. They would be outfitted in the best equipment the Terrans could produce. And when they were first deployed against the First Order, the would-be Empire only knew one way to react: run. Over time, the battles would get more intense as the Terrans drove themselves further into First Order space. Again, see the bonus episodes for any of that to make sense. Seeing the incoming threat, the Terrans would begin reactivating their reserved military, an action that would anger the Senate even more. As this would go on, the First Order would begin attacking both the New Republic and Terran colonies. Small skirmishes, nothing more, but eventually Leia would go on to create the Resistance. Both Leia and the Terrans would be viewed as warmongers by the Senate, but they wouldn't be in a place to complain for long. With the destruction of the Senate by Starkiller Base, the Terrans would amass their full military might to challenge the First Order. Terran High Command didn't know why they didn't destroy Zakuul, but they knew they would be the next target. With the rather pitiful in size Resistance as an ally, and with information from a Stormtrooper defector, the Terrans descended upon Starkiller Base. Terran fighters engaged the TIEs while the X-Wings attacked their target, all the while the Terran fleet moved into position over the base. Without any large vessels as resistance, or too few to really matter, the Terran ships move unimpeded. In much the same way as The Force Awakens, the Allied forces win, and the First Order flees, but they suffer heavier losses. The Terrans make a point to bombard the world from orbit to kill as many Imperials as possible. So we are now caught up with the movies. The bonus parts were added in to add non-canon events into this for entertainment, because the new canon is still to be fleshed out. A lot of the things that go on right now in new canon are a bit scatterbrained, making this a bit hard to do. I'm sorry if this one was weak. I really do recommend the bonus parts. They have some cooler stuff in them. It's just the new canon does not have enough substance to work with right now. I will continue this series after a little break, and I will be dealing with old canon. Real quick, I do want to touch upon Terran society after the Galactic Civil War. So, in the Vong incursion, I stated they began to mirror the Mandalorians. Beyond this, the Terrans' planetary government would still be a democracy and resemble what the Outer Republic looked like. However, much of their leadership would be ex-military, due to them being the only leaders the species really would have after the fall of Earth. Again though, that's just a little side bit in case some of you have ideas that you want to use that with. So yeah, with all that said, I've been Bufar191. I hope you've enjoyed this part. And seriously, if you're going to say Earth isn't in Star Wars, or something like I stated in the beginning of the video, I highly recommend you at least watch episode 1. Fuck, do it with ad block if you want, I don't care. Just, I explain it time and time again. Or at the very least, go down into other comment sections in the 3rd and 5th video, because a lot of people ask that question, and it's always been the same answer. But yeah, so again, I've been Bufar191. I'll see you guys all next time. Goodbye.